Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads, and this is my list of 22 books that I plan and hope to read in 2022. This just seemed like a fun way of making my way through some of my TBR, which is now taking up about an entire bookcase, so I'd quite like to make a dent in that. The majority of the books on this list are 2021 releases. Some of them were also pre-orders, so one would think that I would have put aside time to read them since I knew they were coming, but I didn't. I won't be including any books that I received for Christmas last year because they're so new, they've barely had time to be on my TBR shelves. So starting with books that I received as gifts, I am usually really good at reading books that I receive as presents. I tend to read them not too long after receiving them. So this category is pretty small. It's only two. First up, I've got The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. I absolutely loved the binding. So my boyfriend bought me The Betrayals for Christmas back in 2020. I'm not 100% sure what this book is about, but I believe it is about a game and a secret. I have a few friends that have read this book and they've gone back to reread it, so our likes seem to align quite a lot when it comes to books, so I'm pretty hopeful about this one. Next up, I've got The Switch by Beth O'Leary, and in this book we have a woman in her late 20s who lives in London and decides to swap places with her granny, who is I think late 70s and lives in the countryside, and that just sounds so charming, and I absolutely love reading books that have older protagonists. So next up, I've got my non-fiction books. I used to read a lot of non-fiction and I really enjoy reading non-fiction, but in 2021 I feel like I barely read any non-fiction. I'm sure if I go back and check I will have read loads, but it doesn't feel like I read as much as I normally would. So I have my newest non-fiction books on this list that I would like to make time for. I've got a couple of books by comedians that I enjoy and I love their stand-up, so I'm sure I'll love their books. I've got The Audacity by Catherine Ryan, and I've got Side Splitter by Phil Wang. Other non-fiction books that I would like to read are Food Isn't Medicine by Dr. Joshua Woolrich. I always pronounce his name wrong, so I probably pronounced it wrong again this time. Sorry. I follow him on Instagram and I really like his content, so I'm really excited to read his book. And in a similar vein to Food Isn't Medicine, I've got The Insta Food Diet by Pixie Turner, another doctor that I follow on social media and enjoy their content. I also really miss Pixie Turner's podcast, In Bad Taste, so I'm really excited to read their book because I miss their podcast. The next category is Scottish new releases, new for 2021. I have been making a conscious effort to read more books by Scottish authors, so that's why I've decided to give these books their own section. First up is Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth McNeill. I absolutely loved The Doll Factory, so I'm very excited to read another book by this author. This book seems to be about a woman who is sold to the circus by her father and achieves a level of fame, and just about her experiences in the circus, and that just sounds fascinating. I've got The Edge of the Grave by Robbie Morrison. This is a historical crime novel set in Glasgow in the 1930s, and I believe it's all about gangland activity, which I don't know a lot about, but I think it'll be very interesting. Next up is Flames of Albion by Jean Mingus. I really like watching Jean's booktube channel, so of course when they brought out a book I bought it. I didn't read it, but I bought it, so I'm gonna try and get to it this year. This is a fantasy book, which is my favourite genre, and there is romance, there is some spicy scenes, and I believe there are a dragon, which I'm very excited about. I love a book with a dragon. Next is Hide by Craig Russell. This is not my normal kind of book because it's a scary book, but it won the McIlvany Award, I believe, in 2021, and I really loved Pine by Francine Toon, which won the same award in 2020. So it made me think that perhaps books that win that award might be something I enjoy. This book's been described as a gothic horror set in Edinburgh, which features Scottish folklore and legend, which sounds right up my street. And I feel like I'm the only person in the world, or at least on BookTube and Bookstagram, to have not read Mayflies by Andrew Oigan. I have been warned that I will cry at this book, and I cry at everything, so I fully expect that I will cry at this book. This book, I believe, is taking a look back at childhood friendships and involves a lot of references to music that I may or may not get, because my musical taste is pretty much limited to pop from my school days and maybe some pop punk again from my school days. I don't listen to a lot of, there won't be modern music in this because it's going in the past. I might be okay with the musical references in this actually. And my last Scottish read that I plan to read is Secrets of the Last Merfolk by Lindsay Littleson. And this book is a middle grade. I originally bought this book for my stepkids, but they haven't read it and I want to, so I'm going to. This book is about two friends who discover that mermaids are real, and then they have to help to protect and save the mermaids from a terrifying enemy. And I am hoping that this book will give me a lovely happy ending, because I feel that middle grade and the younger end of young adult books tend to always, or for me I feel, are quite heartwarming and leave me feeling quite nice and warm and fuzzy, and that's what I'm hoping I will get from this book. My final category is the biggest category, and it is 2021 new releases that I meant to read at the time and I didn't. Some of these might not be 2021 new releases. I just think they are. At the very least, they're books I bought in 2021, so I'm counting them in this category. I believe a decent number of these were pre-orders as well, which to my great shame I just did not get to. First up is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Amide, and I have wanted to read this book since it came out, and I heard a few mixed reviews which kind of put me off, and I think that's why I didn't read it last year despite putting it on my TBR stack more than once. But I've decided I'm just gonna go for it because I watched a trailer for this book recently and it just reminded me exactly what I was excited about. This is a YA thriller set in a prestigious school, and there's an anonymous bully and there are secrets, and that just sounds so like something I would love. I have heard that this book is very reminiscent of Gossip Girl, which I loved, so I'm pretty excited about reading this book. Next is Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho, which has one of the most beautiful covers. In this book, a woman starts hearing the ghost of her estranged grandmother, and her grandmother has a mission for her, and she wants her to go and settle a score with a gangland boss. Yep, I'm in. The Island by C.L. Taylor. I have DNF'd this author twice, but I'm thinking that third time is the charm. The books that I DNF'd of theirs were adult fiction, and this book I believe is YA, so I'm hoping that maybe this is going to be an author that I just love their YA stuff. When I was looking up books, I found this and it was described as being Lost meets Hunger Games, and I loved Hunger Games and I loved Lost until I stopped watching it for a while and then came back and was very confused because there were polar bears. So I think that this book is going to be something that I enjoy. The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is the second installment of the Scholomance series. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Sure, I'm gonna go with it. And this series is basically set in a magical school which is trying to kill the students. I've read a lot of books by Naomi Novik. I've read all of their standalones. I've read some of their, I think it's 18th century naval fiction with dragons. I really need to get back into that actually because it was really good. So I'm very excited to read some more. The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I loved the Thursday Murder Club so much and I'm just so excited to read the next installment in this series. I really enjoyed his writing. I have it on good authority that this book is just as wonderful as the last book, so I loved the last book. I've got very high hopes about this one. For anybody who doesn't know the Thursday Murder Club series, it is a murder mystery series where people in a retirement home solve murder mysteries, and it's delightful and charming and I loved it. I only have one audiobook on my 2022 list of 22. The rest of the books I have on in physical copy. My one audiobook is The Moon, the Stars and Madame Barova by Ruth Hogan. This book is set in the 1970s and a woman inherits her mother's fortune-telling business. And I believe that there is a promise that's been made that has to be kept. I don't know if it's the mother's promise or the daughter's promise, but it just sounds like it's going to be a really fun read. Next up is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris. This is a thriller that I believe is all about manipulation in the workplace. It's Get Out meets Devil Wears Prada. I haven't seen Get Out because I thought it would be scary and I can't watch scary films, but I know the premise because while I don't watch scary films, I do look them up online so that I know everything that happens in them, and I love The Devil Wears Prada. So I think that I'm really going to enjoy this one. And possibly the most beautiful book that I own is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is a retelling of The Six Wands by the Grimm brothers. It's set in an East Asian inspired world. I absolutely love fairy tale retellings and I love the Brothers Grimm. Even though the stories are a little creepy, I still am such a sucker for anything that is fairy tale or Brothers Grimm. Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I absolutely loved The House in the Cerulean Sea, so I pre-ordered this book without even having the foggiest idea what it was about. But I believe that this book is about a man who has passed away and ends up in a tea shop where he is awaiting crossing over. And it's got romance and heartwarming bits, so I think I'm gonna really like this. And my final book is Widowland by C.J. Carey. This book is set in a dystopian version of the UK where there is a Ministry of Culture who are tasked with editing history and rewriting the past. And a rebellion breaks out in a slum where unmarried women of a certain age with no children have been dumped, and then an investigation has to happen to find out who is leading the rebellion. I'm rooting for the rebels in this book without even picking it up. So those are my 22 books that I hope and plan to read in 2022. If you've read any of these books and have any suggestions of which ones I need to maybe make time for earlier, then please let me know. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.